welcome back. Today I am going to be doing a full face of makeup using Canadian brands or Canadian base brands or brands that had their roots in Canada. Some of these brands have gotten larger and, you know, maybe they've moved out of good old Canada and, you know, spread their wings sort of thing, but they had their roots at least here in Canada in their beginnings. Some of them are still here. Some of them might not be, but if you are curious to know what brands might be out there that are from Canada or have Canadian roots, keep on watching. I will have to also say that I tried to fill out my collection a little bit in some of the things that I was missing. There was only a couple of things that I didn't have a Canadian-based brand from. So some of these brands are repeated a couple of times throughout just because I didn't want to be wasteful and just go and buy something because it was Canadian and have it in my collection when I already had something for the purposes of this video. So there are several brands that you will see repeated over and over again. But yeah, Canadian nonetheless. So to start things off, I am going to begin with primer, and this is actually one of my favorite primers, and it is by CoverFX, and it is their blurring primer. Moving on, I do have the Marcelle Flawless Luminous Light Infused Foundation, and it does say that this has auto-adapting pigments. When I saw something I did want to try regardless of the video or not, but it was very hard to find my shade. They don't have a large selection of these, and I thought I had found one that would match me. I think this will match me maybe in January after I haven't seen the sun for a couple of months. So this will be probably too light for me right now. I haven't used it yet. I'm excited to try it, but I always have a hard time giving any kind of first impression on a foundation if it doesn't match me properly, especially if it's too light, because it's hard to tell if it's giving the coverage that you want. It's hard to see how it actually wears. I am going to use this today for this video, but I am going to hold off on any judgments that I might have for this particular foundation until it does match my skin tone better, or until I run out and pick up another one that is in my shade if this ends up being too light no matter what. I did bring down some adjuster drops that are not Canadian based. They're by Makeup Revolution. So, I mean, if it is super, super light, I might try another layer with the drops and kind of cheat a little bit, but we are going to try it with just this foundation first and see how these light adjusting things work. But yeah, this is pretty light for my skin right now. Oh, and this is in the shade, where is it? Buff Beige. I am breaking out something awful lately. I'm not sure what's going on. My face feels extra oily lately, which is very odd for me. I don't know if it's just the changes in the seasons or what. But yeah, my skin has not been happy lately. I think I'm going to go in with another layer. I'm not going to add the drops. I just want to see if this will build up at all. Again, it's hard to say what sort of coverage this gives because it is so much lighter than my skin tone, so it's going to have a harder time covering up my freckles and that sort of thing. But we will give it a go and see if it builds up at all. With the brush, it looks a little streaky, and I didn't wet my beauty blender, and yes, it's dirty. Don't judge, whatever. But it's dry, so I'm just going to kind of push this into my skin a little bit. I have to say, I do like the way it looks on my skin. It's not really covering anything up. It is very light coverage at this point, but it does have that luminous kind of glow to it, which I'm not usually a fan of, but I'm trying to try different things and branch out of just the matte look caked on with powder. So I think this foundation will be very nice once it matches me better. Again, it's not super full coverage by what I can tell, at least not for me. It's still, I got a little friend here poking through. I have a little bit of a thingy happening here poking through. I don't know. I will not judge the foundation. So far, it feels nice. It's not super tacky or anything, which is kind of the fear I have with luminous foundations. For some reason, I just associate luminosity with like dewiness and sweat and oiliness and greasiness. And so when I think of luminosity and dewiness, it just makes me think of tackiness on my skin, and I don't like that. But this does not feel super tacky at all, so we are good. We are moving on to another another Marcelle product. Marcelle, by the way, is a Canadian drugstore brand. And this is their Flawless Skin Infusion Concealer. I've had this for a long time. This is considerably darker than the foundation. So we will see how this actually pairs with this. This could be like the end of it. If this looks absolutely ridiculous, then I will go in with another layer of the foundation and I will use the drops with it just to make it match so it's not completely ridiculous, because this is quite a bit deeper, and this is in the shade medium to dark. So apparently I didn't plan that very well. And this concealer has pretty good coverage, but it is one that you do have to blend out right away. Get my brush. This is one you have to blend out right away. If you do one side and then wait and do the other one, it dries very quickly, and then it's very hard to blend. But it looks pretty nice on the skin. This is one I always set my foundation just because I find my mascara ends up transferring if I don't. But this is one that definitely dries down. So especially if you have mature under eyes like I do, and you don't want to powder, but you don't want that tackiness there, this definitely dries down. So this is maybe one to try out. It's just, again, I always find my mascara transfers if I don't set my concealer. So I like to set it anyway. But again, if you don't like to, you know, I'm just going to do a light layer. I think that works. I don't have to worry about putting on darker foundation. I might regret that when editing. Leah goes through and sees the footage, but for now, filming Leah is thinking this is okay. It might work. I'm going to set everything, and for powder, I have several different ones, but the only actual setting powder that I have, or face powder, I have a couple finishing powders, but the only setting powder I have is this sample here, and it's from Stellar Makeup, Stellar Cosmetics, what do they call themselves? Stellar Beauty, that's what it is. So I despise loose powders, but I'm going to use it for the sake of this video. I have to say, this powder, I'm not a fan of. I feel like even though it says it's translucent, it still kind of gives that white kind of cast to my skin a little bit, maybe just because I'm used to getting some more coverage from one with a little bit of color to it. But I have to say, this powder is really nice on my skin. Like, it's really blurring everything in here. And I mean, I have the CoverFX blurring powder on as well, but this is a really pretty powder. I might end up using it up after all. Yeah, I am not a fan of loose powder. It makes such a mess. Okay. I've already mentioned this, but CoverFX is a Canadian brand, and I'm going to be using some of the items in this face palette that they have, the Perfector face palette. This is in light medium, and right now I am going to go in with a contour. I'm debating about anything else out of it because I have a few other things, so I might throw in some other brands. We might end up going back to this though. So for now, let's use the contour and see where that, how that works. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm not sure how well it will work because it is a cream product and I'm going to be using it over the powder, but I'm going to try it, and if it doesn't work, then I'll just use the blush out of here. But I am going to use one of my NudeStix. This is their gel lip and cheek balms, so I'm going to try one of these on my cheeks. NudeStix is also a Canadian company. This is a set of 3 like little guys in here. I got them mainly because I thought they'd be nice for my lips, especially because I'm not a huge fan of what's it called? I'm not a huge fan of cream products on my face, but we are going to give this a go, and this is in the shade Tay Tay. Okay, I think I have a little bit of a healthy flush going on, so we're just going to leave it at that for now. For highlighter, I am going to be using Suva Beauty. This is the Eyeshadow Palette. That's what it's called, but it also has 2 pretty highlighters in here. So which one will I use? I think I'm going to use the one called Era. It's more of the golden one as opposed to the more lavender one. So far, it's a very more natural look, and I think a lot of that's coming just from this foundation not being super dark and then not having any coverage with, or added coverage with my powder. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm just going to amp up my blush and contour a little bit more, just because I do want to go in with a setting powder that I have, or a finishing powder that I have that I really like. So yeah, I'm just going to take a moment and, you know, make it what I like it. As I mentioned, I do have a powder here. This is by Marcelle and it is their face powder, and it doesn't say that it's a setting powder, or that this doesn't say that it is a finishing powder by any means, but that is how I like to use it. This does have a slight pink tone to it. This is in the shade Translucent Medium. I'm not sure if there's other shades to it. When I picked this up, this was the only one at the store, but so this does have a little bit of luminosity to it. And I know I don't like loose powders, but for finishing powder, for some reason, I don't mind it. Okay, let's see. That's better. That's what I'm talking about. That just kind of fixed it all up for me. I have to say, if you are looking for a finishing powder that kind of has a softness to it and slight luminosity to it, not a ton, this Marcelle face powder is excellent. Again, it's in the shade Translucent Medium, and you get like a whole pile in here. Like, this thing is super full. And yeah, drugstore. Moving on to brows, I will be using the brand Annabelle. This is another drugstore brand that you can get. This is their skinny brow liner, and this is in universal medium. But I've seen some weird spoolies in my time, but this is weird, and it hurts. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. It's plastic, and it's spiky, and it's small, and it doesn't do much of anything. So I'm going to just grab a spoolie that I have on a brush, because you know what? I would have rather they have just not put anything on the end and just maybe save me a couple cents on it. I don't know, but the product itself works nice. It's just the spoolie is a little painful to use. And this is your typical micro tip pencil. It is very tiny. They do have a number of different brow pencils in their line. This is just the one that I happen to grab because I do prefer a tiny pencil. I do have to say that this brow pencil is much more on the waxy side compared to the creamy side of things. So if you like something a little more creamy and a little bit more soft going in your brow, you're not going to enjoy that. But if you do something that has a little bit more stiffness to it and that you can really define a brow with, that is really nice. And they do have several shades. They have like a medium or a universal taupe, and they have the universal, what was this, medium brown, universal medium. Apparently I needed the darker one. They do have darker ones. They had some lighter ones. So we're checking out if it's something you're interested in, and it wears really nice. And again, is just more of a waxier kind of formula, but it doesn't pull my brow hairs out like some stiffer formulas do. So that's good, because I can keep my brow hairs, because I like to keep my brow hairs. Hey. Moving on, I am using another Annabelle product, and this is their eyeshadow base, and this is similar to a paint pot, I suppose. It's just in the shade Beige, and it's in a pot, and it's an eye primer. So this is what I will use. For my eyeshadow, I am going to be using Cargo Cosmetics, and I have 3 different palettes by them. I have the Havana palette, and it is kind of this nice summery palette. I did use this past summer. I also have the Essentials palette, which is just a very neutral palette here. And then I have the Namaste in India palette. And it is neutral, but it's got a couple pops of green. I am going to go with this palette today just because I haven't really used this one yet. I've had it. Moving along, we are almost there. So next I am going to do my lashes, and I have 2 different ones here. I'm just pulling them out of my bag. I do have Marcelle, and then I have one by Quo, which they are both Canadian drugstore companies. our drugstore brands. This is one of my favorite mascaras, and this one is one I just got recently because I was curious and I wanted to try it. The Quill one. The Quill one, I think it would be good as a topper just because it's huge. You can't get your lower lashes. I mean, you can, but you make a mess if you do your lower lashes with it. But it is just really spaced apart, those bristles, and so it's really hard to build up any volume in it. Am I going to try this one? Or this Marcelle one is actually pretty nice. It's got a rubber bristle wand, which I like, and it's got like the spiky things on it, which I like. Which one am I going for? I've used this one before in videos, so I think just to switch things up, I am going to use this, even though I know it's not perfect and it's not my favorite mascara by a Canadian brand, Marcelle for sure. This one here, which is their Extension Plus, is really nice. I like it. And again, they're both waterproof mascaras because I do have watery eyes, so that's what I wear. And I don't have any primers that are Canadian companies. So I'm just going in with regular mascara. I'm not going to do my lower lash line because that I feel is just asking for trouble. But we will try, and I will try not to make a huge mess. Like, this is huge on my eye. Now for lips, I could go in again with my NudeStix that I have and throw that on my lips. But of course, as many of you know, Bite Beauty is Canadian and they have some fantastic lip products. So I think I'm going to choose from these today. I think I'm going to go in with my favorite shade, and this is the shade Pepper. This is just one of their minis that I got in a collection a couple of years ago. To finish things off, I am going to be using a setting finishing spray, and for that I'm going to be using good old MAC Fix Plus. Yes, MAC had its starts and its roots in Canada, and you know, that's kind of a cool thing to be able to say. And that, folks, is a full face of Canadian-based, or at one point Canadian-based, makeup brands makeup on my face. I think I said that right. I don't know. You get what I mean. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of these products. Were you aware that CoverFX and MAC and NudeStix had their roots in Canada, or even Bite Beauty? Are some of these brands new to you? Have you heard of them before? Or if you're in Canada, have you tried out Annabelle and Marcelle and these sort of brands? Or if you are in Canada or wherever you may be, let me know some other Canadian brands that you love and have used and you think that I should check out. I would be curious to know. You know, I'm always trying to search for things, but sometimes it's hard to find out where these brands are actually located and where they came from and that sort of thing. So if you can give me information on something that you enjoy, I would love to try it out. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.